So Thomas is a fellow graduate of RMIT, I am as well. He's got a degree in engineering, and he's worked in the aerospace industry for many years, where he's travelled extensively and he's lived in different parts of the world. He's also an avid golfer, and I forgot to ask you in the lift, because his hobby is forest bathing. And I have a big question mark as to whether he showers in the forest or whether he showers the forest. But I'm not sure if he has time to explain that later, but I would love to introduce Thomas Tan. So Thomas, you have 40 minutes, okay? And at 30 minutes, Casey, our timer at the back there, is going to show up his green card. And so when he does, that's just for you to note, so can you please just acknowledge that. At 35 minutes there'll be a yellow card, and again if you can just acknowledge that to Casey. And at 40 minutes there's a red card, and we'd like you to close up within the next 30 seconds after that.
You will hear this.
Nice.
Then you have to hop your way down.
So that's audible, okay?
This is something new. Yeah, this is something new as well. I'm like, wait, that's not in my... Not in the script. So please, everybody, welcome Thomas Tan.
Actually, I spoke about forest bathing a few months ago. It's basically you go into the forest naked and you hug trees.
Hug trees.
Hug trees. Feel the vibration. Oh, you missed that topic. Okay,
I'm glad I did.
Alright, tonight I'm going to talk to you about impromptu speaking, but this time from a different perspective. A lot of time when we are asked to speak impromptu manner, we are always thinking that he's asking me for my opinion, maybe on a certain topic. How do I feel about this subject? And so we come up and we give one way of looking at it. Okay? But
is it on? Is it on? I'll on that side.
Okay. We need a high-tech guy here. Sorry,
The aerospace guy.
even though I'm an engineer. Okay. You are to, number one, think differently. But do we all think differently? I think a lot of time we think in a certain way because of our personal experiences and things. So we have to really consciously try to think differently, because your default position is always one way of thinking. And then form your own opinion. Some of us are quite highly opinionated already. Fernando is already... So, but you need to have your own opinion. You have met people who have no opinion at all. You ask him about certain things. What do you think about the protest in Hong Kong? Or I don't know. You know. What do you think about global warming? Or I don't know. Or, you know. Or who cares? You know. So no opinion. So these are people who can be quite boring. So if you are stuck on a long flight with somebody who has got no opinion, I feel sorry for you. Hope you have a good legacy. And the other thing is to believe strongly in something. If you don't, it's called passion. Some people have a lot more passion than others. So you must believe, whether it's charity, you know, charitable work, you must believe passionately, or whether it's playing golf, you must have passion. Whether it's you only stop when you lightning strike. So you believe in something. Yeah. And actually, people who believe strongly in something are also quite difficult to live with. I hope you are not married to anyone who has got a very high opinion and think differently. Now, the thing is that there is no single right decision in anything in this world. So, depending on where you're coming from, unless you're God, okay, you can't argue with God. God says this is the way and this shall be the way. But for us, mortal humans, there are actually many ways to skin a cat, many ways to a mountain. So you must see the situation and the issue that later on I will present to you from different perspectives. So this is something, this is where your mindset, and you've got to start thinking about it now. Now, when I'm going to ask you to speak on certain topic, you must try to come from different angles, not from one way, okay? One way to the mountain. I've always traveled this road, it has always led me here, there, and that is the only way I want to go. Now you must. So the speech structure I'm expecting from all of you will be, you present one perspective on the issue I'm going to give to you. You present a second perspective on the issue, and then you present a third perspective on the issue. And then after that, you summarize it all, and then you take your own personal position. Okay? So it's not as easy as you think. So are you all ready? Okay, if I were to give you an example to show you how it's done, perhaps one of the topic could be the minister's salary are too high. And this is something that all Singaporeans love to talk about. You know, the minute you put it out there, everyone has got an opinion. But right or wrong, it does not matter, but there is a different perspective. So if you are a citizen of Singapore, maybe it's a service to the country. You know, they're doing a service to the country, and financial reward should not be a consideration. So if you read behind the lines, they are overpaid. Okay? So financial reward should not be a consideration. But if you look at it from another perspective, let's say as a husband or a father, then you talk about, hey, financial security. Everybody wants to be paid well because they want to provide for their family, for their children's education, and perhaps some money left over for retirement. People like me, I need money to retire. And hopefully, you know, you're paid for the kind of responsibility that you're given, and the wages are comparable to the private sector. Now, if you look again from a third perspective, let's say as a businessman, you're a businessman, and you are like a really beautiful businessman. You say, no, the minister's salary is too low for their responsibility. Okay, high salary is acceptable if they manage the economy well. And they did. You must have read recently, we are world #1. Yeah! Pay bonus to the ministers. Yeah! Oh yeah! They create job for Singaporeans.
No, I want my CPF back.
Opinion. Okay. But not lately, not lately, maybe they haven't created enough job. So then we need a balance. So personally, if I were to summarize it all, I say, yeah, we need a balance to attract the right candidate for the job, and not just a draw of high salary. Okay? And I always remember Jiang Qintong once said about Lee Kuan Yew, paying him $1 million in those days is actually underpaying him. Such one. For an opposition to say that of Lee Kuan Yew, you know, is actually a compliment. And that's why today I support Lee Hsien Loong $3 million. But can I have a yes to that? No! I don't know. Son of Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew got 1 million, the son has to get more. It is logic. I can see a lot of workers' parties. Okay, this is the last example. Okay. Now, should prostitution be legalized? Okay, if you have come to a topic given to you like that, you know, and it's quite a challenging topic. So you need to, like I said before, you must give me 3 perspectives, isn't it? So you got to give me the perspective from the customer. As a customer, it'll be a bit more difficult for women, I understand. from the customer perspective? How about from the prostitute perspective? And what about from the health authority? And after that, you summarize it and you put your personal position on the issue. That's where you need to be strongly, have a bit of opinion. Now, that concludes what I'm going to train you for. The next part I'm going to do is get you all to speak on some of the topics. 10 topics that you can actually pick one and come up here and give me your perspective. Don't forget what I'm looking for, your perspective, not just from one way of looking at it. Try to look at it the way I said for the speech. 3 ways, minimum 3 perspectives of how things are. Okay. I'll give you a bit of time to look at it, to digest it, perhaps have a topic that you would like to speak on, because this is actually good training for you. Impromptu speaking, you really need to think on your feet. If I give you time to prepare speech, anyone can do it. But in a company, when your boss calls you up and says, hey, what do you think about this? You really have to think quick, think fast. Have a well-trained mind. Okay, look at it from this angle, look at it from the other angle, and look at it from another angle. And if you can give your boss 3 ways of looking at the problem and come up with a conclusion and a solution, I think the next promotion will be yours. Okay? So if you want to be a senior vice president earning this $1 million salary in a big corporation, this is the way to go. So, do I have a volunteer? Some volunteers? Valen? All right, Okay, you have 2 minutes so you can walk slowly towards the stage. Compose your thoughts. Because it's not counted, only 2 minutes.
Oh, never give her 3 minutes.
Okay, give her 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
So 1, 2, 3.
So I will choose topic number 6. What are some behaviors that are only found in Singapore? When I came to Singapore and I visited the hawker center, I found that there are a lot of tissue on the table. They try to chop the seed. So this is the very unique behavior found in Singapore. And recently I saw in the Facebook, there is some anti-chop movement. They say, yeah,
Is it good or bad?
there are some people against this behavior, this chop movement. The reason is that they feel that it's quite selfish or unreasonable to reserve the seat when you go up to queue for the food. So my opinion is that by reserving the seat is more efficient for us to queue for the food, especially when we have to eat at the hawker center ourselves alone. Yeah, that's all for my opinion. Thank you.
Well done, well done. It's not easy, but you know, with practice you become good. Mary, pick a topic.
Yes.
Casey.
Right.
Well, Casey,
I have 2 hours because nobody timed me. I will pick. Hi, my name is Casey Chen. I want to pick numbers. You talk about number 6, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I also want to talk about number 6.
Sure.
Yeah. Why are some behaviors that are only found in Singapore? Basically, Singapore is a very unique country. Now, I travel a lot. I met with many people, and there's one time this Taiwanese came to my Singapore and said, well, I said, why do you come to Singapore? It's all the same. They say, Casey, no, in my country, my neighbor is Chinese, upstairs Chinese, next door, downstairs all Chinese. And I only see Chinese temples. Everywhere I go, I only see Chinese signages. In Singapore, left, right, center, up, down, you have different, all kind of people around. And I see that the behaviors are really interesting because only Singaporeans behave to accept different culture, different food. and I see it as a benefit of the behaviors of it. So, as a Singaporean, right, I take this as a very good benefit for me when I go overseas to work, because I adapt very well. So I think this behavior is very good, and that's the reason why foreigners like to come to Singapore. Thank you.
So, did Casey give different perspective towards this, from different angle?
A little bit from the tourist point of view and from this point of view. Only two, not good enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Gia.
Dedicated to Casey and Valen. I'll show you how it's done. Should we legalize prostitution? That's the one Thomas put up. From the customer's point of view, meaning Fernando.
You mean the Casey?
Okay. No, it is really very good. It is really very good, very important to legalize. Why? Security. Because if you pick up girls on the roadside, unlicensed prostitute, they may end up blackmailing you. Right? Whereas licensed prostitute will never blackmail you. First thing. Second thing, it's very good for him because he will stop contracting venereal disease. Because licensed prostitute, they have to go for medical checkup and stuff like that. They are required to make sure you wear condom and stuff. So it's really very good for you.
How do you know?
Okay, I'm the regulator. Thirdly, you no need to carry cash in your pocket. Licensed prostitute, brothels, they have credit card, and they can issue you receipt to claim tax deduction from a very innocent looking establishment. They will not say ABC brothel, they will say ABC restaurant. So it's really good for the customer. It is also very, very good for the prostitute. Why? If you're operating as a street walker, you encounter people like Fernando who don't pay you and they run away. Number two, some of them may even rob you or murder you or beat you up.
Rip you?
Yeah, you see? Experience counts. Okay, and then they are very safe, they are protected in the brothel. They won't have any trouble from anyone. And payment is secure. They just do their business, they get their money. They don't mind to pay some to the brothel owner. From the health authority, good or bad? Good. Excellent, right? They can control the health. Even from the criminal department, crime rates go down because gangsters are no more involved. It's just pure commercial transaction. In conclusion, what is the position we should take? Well, I am neither a prostitute nor a customer or health authority or a crime fighter. So I'm a commercial businessman. Whatever makes sense, we should enforce it and make everyone prosper. Thank you.
3 minutes.
No, it's okay.
What's wrong with
Yeah, it's okay.
No, that's good.
Anyone? Yeah. Your turn. Go get it.
Out of this whole list, the only thing that I thought I could talk about was number 6, but it seems like everybody likes to talk about number 6. And you know, the tissue papers definitely came up. But one thing that I realized in my business, and I'm in the healthcare business, I realized that a lot of people, they live to eat. Or in my business, because you know, I see a lot of athletes, they run to eat. And you know, they'll go for a run so they can eat more food, and I understand that. And when they go to the hawker center, the unique thing about Singapore is when there's 2 chicken rice stalls and one has a queue of 1,500 people, people queue up at that one. And I kind of looked at it, I thought to myself, well, why do they keep queuing there? And I realized one thing. If people queue there, it is social recognition, right? That means other people are recommending it and everybody's queuing with their feet and voting with their feet. So it makes sense because they know what the quality, the standard, it must be good, it must be value for money, there must be something valuable for them to go into that. So I really get that point. And of course the other thing too is that you know, generally Singaporeans, they love their food. And because they love their food, they will do whatever it takes to get it. If it means queuing for 30 minutes, so be it. But of course, there are other people that just kind of go, well, chicken rice, same thing, right? Still roasted, still comes with rice, still comes with chicken, rice. Go and buy that one. Because they might just go, well, I've got better things to do than just to stand in line for 30 minutes. Right? And you know, they could have families, they could have hungry kids, they could have, you know, a work commitment or an appointment, they're trying to sneak in lunch in between. So I get that this is, you know, such a silly thing to do, right? Queuing up for 30 minutes just for a chicken rice. So, you know, there's those sorts of people. But then you also have to understand that it is the crowd of the people, should I say it is the business owner that has to slow down or speed up. Because I know an F&B owner, and when they have an event, what they do is they either speed up or they slow down their service based upon the queues. Because they want a queue at their branch. So they can actually choose to speed up and get people moving, or they can slowly slow down so there's still going to be 3 or 4 people in the queue, and then allow people to go, oh wow, this guy still has a queue, everybody else doesn't have a queue anymore, so this must be good. And so it makes business sense to even have these types of processes. So I think that, you know, it really depends on where you stand, how much you value your food, how much time you have as to, you know, which line or which way you want to go about it. For me personally, I won't bother queuing up because, to be honest, really, food is food. It's nutrients, it might taste good, it might last for all of 30 minutes when you're eating, but at the end of the day, I value my time. I respect my time. And of course, if my time was very well spent in the queue talking to somebody or creating a relationship, great. But if it's not, I'd rather spend my time with my family, spend my time doing something that would add value to me and to everybody else. Thank you very much.
Fantastic evening, everyone. I'd like to attempt question 1. Why don't Singaporeans try to speak proper English? Now it's interesting because we've all been students of an education system. We all live in Singapore. And we all recognize that Singaporean English isn't exactly perfect. And so my English teacher, I met up with her recently and she said, this is the worst job in Singapore, to be an English teacher. Because none of the students do. And so I asked her, why do you think Singaporeans don't speak proper English? And her response to me was, basically, they don't know how. Sometimes it's not about why they choose not to, but the fact that they don't have proper role models. Think about it, at home, a lot of their parents speak Chinese or other dialects, so they have no chance to practice. They may watch Channel 5 instead of, let's say, BBC. And likewise, the accent is different, enunciation is different, pronunciation is different. They just don't know how. And then I thought, not knowing how is one thing, but there must be more to it. And I talked to one of my friends one of my students who came to study in Singapore. Right now, I'm actually a coach for Chinese students. And he told me when he came to Singapore, he couldn't understand our accents. He's like, why Singapore, you all talk like that one, huh? And really, after 6 months, he started to become, you know, Lord, all of these bad habits. And he said, so why do we speak like that in Singapore? And one of the conversations he had with his Singaporean classmate was that because there's no need to speak proper English. Think about it, Singlish is the most economical way to say something. Go where? Do what? What time? Swim! Right? It's very simple, very short, and very efficient. And perhaps for Singaporeans, because we're all so concerned about cheaper, faster, better. Right, and that's where it really is. Being able to be efficient, and be fast, and get the message across. Just like in Agora, we are here to learn to speak effectively. And Singlish ultimately is very, very efficient, very, very effective.
Totally agree.
There is a third perspective, and this was the one that I felt when I first saw the whole debate on why Singaporeans don't speak English. And for me, I'm proud to be a Singaporean. I'm proud to defend my country. And likewise, with every country comes its own culture and traditions. And nowhere in the world would you find people who say kiasu, or walao like that, hey, choke, relax, brother. All of these little phrases make up the sense of what it means to be Singaporean. To identify and unite behind the culture and unite behind the language. And so even if I were to go overseas and conduct business there, sure, I will speak English as best I can to get my point across. But it doesn't mean that I don't embrace English, I don't embrace my roots, or I don't embrace the bits of culture that mean so much to me, where I grew up, and what I believe is a part of me. So these are three different perspectives, and I'm not sure what you feel about why Singaporeans don't try to speak better English. But at the end of the day, I do believe that communication is about being effective in getting a point across. Thank you.
Paul, is it?
Livio.
Yes, please.
Bukit Timah, you can create your own topic.
I stay out of the...
Yeah.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Okay. So I can choose freely.
Yes. Yes.
I like number 9.
Okay.
What countries in Southeast Asia will have more potential in the next 5 years?
Hong Kong.
Singapore perspective, all around, even more than 5. So it's a big business opportunity for Singapore. Since Singapore is already a developed country, can compete with many other countries of the world, despite the geographical size. Forget it. It's knowledge, skill, competencies, what you have gained along your history, the capability to connect with other countries, establish diplomatic relationships as well as business capabilities. Singapore can see even more, can see a lot of potential around this geographical area. From the perspective of the country around Singapore, they can see Singapore as a country which they have to intake a lot of knowledge, experience, and skills to make business. So it's something mutual relationships, either in terms of business and diplomatic relationships as well. Without mentioning which countries, which is quite clear to everyone, which are the developing countries around Southeast Asia, which are the big opportunities for Singapore. I would say in the end, the most important thing is to help these countries to get closer with Singapore, to talk more with Singapore, to know better each other, and to move forward to develop more business together and make stronger all this area, which all together can become very powerful then to enlarge the business to all over the world. And this is my wish for Singapore, for all these developing countries.
One perspective is
I'm not a Singaporean.
one perspective is because it's who they are. It's what makes them Singaporean. So by speaking Singlish, it actually creates that bond and connection. I was a foreigner when I first came to Singapore. When I speak proper English, it seems there's a wall. But once I learned to speak Singlish with local people, it immediately creates that bond and connection. So that's one perspective.
Really?
Yes, it is. And then second perspective is it is bad to speak Singlish if you do not know when and where
to speak, to use it. If you use it in meetings, it can be really irritating because it sounds very unprofessional. So speaking Singlish is bad if you use it in the wrong place. Okay, yes.
Like K-long.
Yeah. Okay, the third perspective. Why don't Singaporeans try to speak proper English? Because help me.
Some of the people you talk to don't understand. Right?
Your experience in Singapore.
So yeah, first is I'm pro Singlish when I'm adapting locally. Second is I don't agree with using Singlish in the wrong place. Oh, but the third one. I realize it's not that easy.
How can you export Singlish overseas and make it a thing overseas?
Just buy my book.
Oh, I kind of like the new movie that is coming up. The local movie about we speak different language. When I see that movie, actually I find that it's a pride. This is the unique Singaporean culture to have the Singlish. And you're right to say that. You're right to say that no one speaks kiasu, this kind of words. And to me, that is a pride. And there's a different perspective. Oh, sure.
Hi, hello. Okay, I'm going to choose a different topic. Number 3. What would you tell someone who is considering moving to Singapore and not trying to speak with an English accent? I hope that honorable gentleman has set the tone, right? Okay, first perspective is from the government of Singapore. Okay. Let me correct that. From the government, the current government that is owned by a particular party. Okay.
How much money are
The
you
government does not equal the party, and party does not equal the government. So happen to be that now. From this particular government now, of course, come, welcome. We welcome you because we need more people to drive the economy. We need more people to consume our goods. We need more people to buy expensive properties and kind of keep the property prices up. And we need more people to make up the 10 million that we're hitting for. So please come. That's the first perspective. The second perspective is from lots of PMETs. Maybe some of us are in that group now that are currently not doing PMET jobs, but we're driving Grab taxis because our jobs have been displaced. So for this particular group of people, perhaps they will say, they'll tell these people who are considering coming to Singapore, please don't come. We are already overcrowded. We have more than enough Grab drivers already. We don't need any more. So, go find somewhere else. Maybe Hong Kong might be a good place to go. And the third perspective is from the consumer, a particular group of customers. Maybe somebody like Fernando. What would he tell these foreigners who want to come here? Come and come. Because we heard in the grapevine that the government is going to legalize a specific industry. And we need more foreign talent to come so that I have more choices as a customer. And those are the 3 perspectives. What is my own perspective? I say it depends on who. Okay? Those who can come and contribute and live among us and accept us as who we are and help us be a better country, please come. And those who come, well, for other reasons, maybe find another place.